Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's live. Today is February the 11th, and it is 8 o'clock. Let's get started. I'm going directly to share screen. Whoops. A small problem here. Hold on, everybody. Here we go. Now we're ready to go. So it'll take me about 10 seconds to change to share screen. And let's go. There we go. Take me just a few more seconds, everybody. Here we are. And as you know, I start every live with this slide. It's coming up soon. And where is it? There we are. Let's get started. As you know, this means vamos começar. There's that word get. As you know, we'll take a look at that. Ficar. Get can be ficar in this case. It doesn't make sense in Portuguese. But let's get started is vamos começar. And we're going directly to our title slide tonight. And it's about Abraham and a lesson in spirituality. A lesson in spirituality. You know that word, spirituality. Now, the last two times we learned about the Abrahamic covenant. I didn't say the name Abrahamic covenant, but we looked at it. And covenant is a contract, but it's more than a contract. Well, here it is, much more than a contract. And it involves, usually it's an oath or something that it's much stronger than a regular contract. And usually in the church, we use it as a contract, so to speak, between God and his people. Now, can God make a promise he can't keep? Obviously, the answer is no, but I wanted to use this line. In English, we make a promise, and after we make a promise, we keep the promise. So, all right. Now, there are three parts to this Abrahamic covenant, and we looked at this 2 weeks ago in Genesis 12:2. I will make a great nation from you. I will make a great nation from you. I will bless you and make your name famous. It's famous in three religions: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And now Abraham here is promised a lot of land. Now, a lot, by the way, is lot, and that's what it means. A lot is we have lots of land, terreno. So if you can imagine now, you have a lot, terreno 5 por 25 com livros. Now we have a lot of books. That is a big number. So to give you an idea why we use that word a lot and a lot of. All right. Abraham was promised a lot of land, and this was the first part of the covenant. All right, Genesis 15:5 we looked at last week, or actually the last 2 weeks also. Then God led Abram outside and said, "Look at the sky." Now remember, Abram is his original name. We'll see that later that God changes that name. See the many stars. There's the two verbs we looked at the last 2 weeks. Look at. Olhar para and see, ver. There are so many that you cannot count them. Now here's that word so. We looked at this again the last two times. So es tanto tão. We need a little explicaçãozinha. There are so many that you cannot count them. So there it is, little explanation. Your family will be like that. Now Abraham was the first Jew. He was born a Gentile and became a Jew. We will look at Hebrew, not a Jew, a Hebrew. He was the first Hebrew. So we will look at this in the future. And verse 6, Abram believed the Lord, and because of this faith, the Lord accepted him as righteous. We know this as Paul's favorite verse, which he used many times. And then in verse 7, God told Abram, I am the Lord who led you from Ur of Babylonia. I did this so that para que I could give you this land. I could give you. You will own this land. Então, God spoke to Abraham twice, or Abram, his original name, twice. And for anybody joining us new for the first time, twice, 2 times. So God spoke to Abraham twice. What could possibly go wrong? He spoke to Abram twice. What could go wrong? Well, Abraham. He was what was wrong. He was slow, just like us sometimes when God speaks. Anyhow, now what did Abraham do? He thought the Egyptians were going to kill him. So it's because of his wife. Even after God promised Abram all that land. Now here's even, até mesmo. Even after God promised Abram all that land and all those children, what did God say next? So on that day, the Lord made a promise and agreement with Abram. He said, I will give this land to your descendants. I will give them the land between the river of Egypt and the great river Euphrates. And so what happened next, Pedro? Abraham panicked. Now here in Portuguese, ele entrou em pânico. He panicked. So in English, that's a verb. Panic is a verb. He left Haran when he was 75 years old. He's an old buzzard. At 86 years old, he still didn't have a son, as God promised. Oof. That's when his wife started thinking. Now here's a gerúndio. She started to think, or she started thinking. If we use the gerúndio here, it's not a verb, it is a thing. Started to think. Now those are 2 verbs. In Genesis 16, Sarai was Abram's wife, but she did not have any children. And she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. And Sarai told Abram, oh, now here's told. Remember, tell is to somebody. To somebody. Sarai told Abram, the Lord has not allowed me to have children. And so sleep with my slave. Sorry, everybody. But so here's Intel. Maybe she can have a son and I will accept him as my own. Now here is own as proprio. So own, possuir, or own proprio. Então, now permit, we have 3 verbs for permitir. Allow, permit, and let. And we have looked at permit and let in the past. I think permit can also be, or let can also be deixar. But allow is the most formal. He's not allowed me to have children. Now what did Abraham do next? Abram did what Sarai said. This is directly a quote from Genesis. It was Sarah's turn to mess up. Now, turn is vez. So when we're playing a game, it's my turn. It minha vez. So it was Sarah's turn to mess up. Now, mess I did not put here, but mess is bagunça. And mess up is bagunçar. And they did. Abraham and Sarah did a good job messing up. So Sarah's turn. She didn't trust God either. They believed God, but the trust part wasn't there. She didn't trust God. And you know, trust is confiar. And either, depends if you're German, they'll say either. In British, they will say either. Tanto faz in the United States. So she didn't trust God also também. So negativo. Então, Abraham had a slave named Eliezer, and he was going to inherit everything. So inherit, herdar. Oof. If Abraham didn't have a son. Remember slavery back then, nessa época, didn't have the stigma. You know this word, stigma, in Portuguese, almost the same, stigma. Stigma, like today. It was a job for a lifetime and also offered civilization. Yeah, I will take civilization any day. All right. What was Eliezer thinking? Well, he was thinking, hey, keep doing what you're doing, Abram. Don't stop. So, anyhow, he was going to be rich, very rich, if Abram did not have a son. Anyhow, now what was God thinking? What was God thinking? After all this, 2 times, God spoke with Abram. And Genesis 17 tells us, when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him. He said, I am God all-powerful. I know powerful, poderoso. In English, we have all-powerful or almighty. Almighty is more popular. So I am God, but I think in Portuguese, poderoso. I am God all-powerful. Obey me. Now we have looked at this. Obey, obedecer, and live the right way. If you do this, I will prepare an agreement between us. I will promise to make your people a great nation. And it took 3 times before Abraham did the right thing. And we will look at that maybe a little later, but the third part of the covenant. Then Abram bowed down. Now, bow down is, in English, we have genuflect. Bowed down before God. And God told him, there's that verb tell again. God told this to a certain person. Here it is, bowed. I'm looking on Google as we speak. Curvado, curvo, maybe, I don't know. He bowed down before God, and God told him, this is my part of our agreement. I will make you the father of many nations. And this is nations, not people. I will change your name from Abram to Abraham, because I'm making you the father of many nations. Abram means honored father, and Abraham means great father, or father of many. Well, there's a reason why he's going to be the father of many, much more. This was the third part of the agreement, as I had said. I will make you the father of many nations, and this was about the Gentiles. Not all the Gentiles, but only the believing Gentiles and the believing Hebrews or Jews later. So this was about a nation of faith. Faith, not the same fronteira. Sem fronteira, this is a nation of faith. And Abram reminds me of Jonah, doesn't he? Yes, he does, Pedro. And everybody else in the Bible, they all had problems, just like us. So I'm not the only one, people. I'm looking at you right now on the camera, and I know we've all had problems in one way or another, but God's love is unconditional. And we need to remember this. God's love is unconditional. And it doesn't matter how we mess up. We will mess up. But God's love is always there for us. And we need to remember who we are. We are not special. We have the story of Abraham, Jonah, and all the others. Now, story would be a historia, or we could say asunto. Abraham was living the history. Now, here's history again. History, historia. So the history of the Bible, history of Brazil, history of the Jewish people, and the story of Abraham. So it's the same historia in Portuguese. Like everybody else in the Bible, he was living history. Job, he didn't have the book of Job to help him. No, he was living history. Now we would have done the same thing in Abraham's shoes. We would have done the same thing. And we would have done the same thing in the Roman soldiers' shoes. These people are living the history for the first time. And in Nazi Germany, we're no different. We are today because of who we are. And now that we're born again, we also have the Bible to instruct us. So without it, without our past, without our mothers, without the Bible, without our churches, we would be just like these people. We're nothing special. And we have the benefit of these 6,000 years of history. There's history again and the stories. Historias. 6,000 years of human history and the stories, os asuntos, as historias. And maybe in the last days. What happens in the last days? The time will come when people will not listen to the true teaching. Here it is, the ensinos verdadeiros, the true teaching. This is a genugio. Time will come when people will not listen. But people will find more and more teachers who please them. They find more and more teachers. They will find teachers who say what they want to hear. Now here it is. The verb say is just to vocalizar. To verbalize, verbalizar, who say what they want to hear, not to them. This is just in general. So the difference between say and tell. They will find teachers who say what they want to hear, and people will stop listening to the truth. Here's another gerundio. Stop listening to the truth. And they will begin to follow the teaching of myths. And this is spirituality in the church. When the culto, the service, is more important than the service of people around us. We go for the teaching. So this is the one thing that's missing in the church today is service. Not the service, o culto, but the service for other people. This is where the church has had problems in the last century. We can owe that to technology. So we want to make it a better church service. It's crazy. But anyhow, the church is messing up big time. Messing up. Bagunzando. We are, and this is in the majority of the churches, I hate to say. I can't say that in many churches today. So they want to hear. People, the churches are saying what people want to hear, which is not the truth. So the first truth is service, people. And myths, by the way, is mito. What can we do? What can we do, Pedro? Well, it is not a question of determination. Abraham tried this. It didn't work. This is spirituality. We all do this. We're going to do for God. No, we can't. God doesn't need us. We're going to try harder. No, God doesn't need us. God wants not our sacrifice. He wants our obedience and that the first step is serving those around us. Then spirituality is pure emotion. This is a question of maturity. You know that word maturity, I mentioned this a lot of times. It's a question of maturity. We need to live our faith. We need to live our faith, not with determination, but with obedience. And this is results. This is where results are made in our neighborhood and those around us. And here is where we'll stop tonight. Good night, everybody. I hope you enjoyed tonight's live, and see you next Thursday or in class during the next week. All right. Good night, everybody.